Hello! Hello, and welcome to Around the Boxes, episode number 22. It's been a couple weeks since my last one. I've just been a little bit busy, a lot of stuff going on, and I haven't had many books to talk about. I wanted to wait till I had like a good amount of books to talk about, and I do now. I have a solid few comics to talk about today. Another thing to address, I'm sure you can obviously tell, my hair is a bit different. That is because I'm growing it out. And I'm in that weird in-between phase. Me and my fiance have discussed much about it. I'm trying to grow it out long. Right now it's not quite there yet, so the best I can do is this middle part, and it's just kind of whack, but it's really all I got right now. It's gonna look weird for the next few months while I'm probably even longer than that while I'm growing it out, so, whatever. But, yeah, so this is where we're at right now. This is probably the longest my hair has been in a while. But we're keeping it going. So, yeah, growing it out, but, how's everyone doing today? Fine Wednesday. It is, comic book day, of course. And, yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, Webheads, obviously we haven't had an episode in a couple weeks either, and we will be getting on that very soon, so we're not dead, we're not disappearing again. We were just both really busy for some time there, and so we will be getting back on that. I need to reach out to JP and make sure that we're set to do that, but that'll be coming soon. So with that said, let's just dive right into it. So I got a few things to talk about. One thing I actually want to talk about real quick. Let me just grab my little webpage over here. I forgot to have a link pulled up before. Here we go. A new comic book coming out from Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Oh, where's my thing? Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman grab Ed McGuinness for Image Comics Vanish, which is coming in September. Here is a cover. So I am absolutely picking that up. Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman are, of course, the team behind the wonderful Venom run that ended last year, and I love them. They're a great creative team. So I am super excited about this, and it's over at Image, which is great because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain that all Image comics are creator-owned, so that means that they will have ownership over this property. So that is awesome. Super excited for that. That'll be coming in September. So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit here because that is something that'll be really, really, really cool, and I'm very excited. So love that creative team. And I've been getting into more indie comics, and we'll talk about that a little bit in my pickups here, but let me shut that down. I'm also noticing, looking at the preview, my face looks really red. Part of that is because I have gotten a lot of sun recently. I was at the pool earlier today, but I also have a really bright, like, yellow-orange light right here that's making me look really red. Like, if I back up a little bit. So, yeah, I look like I'm... Oh, it was, like, shielded for a second there. You can see my skin tone. I don't know. I look red, but I'm fine. I'm not, like, sunburned or anything. Am I? I don't think I'm sunburned or anything, but yeah. Anyway, first thing I want to show for my pickups is actually not comic books, but it is kind of comic adjacent. And I figured enough of you would probably be interested in this. I have picked up my first manga, or however you pronounce it. For anyone who doesn't know, manga is basically Japanese comic books, and they're often adapted into anime. Like, manga and anime are usually hand in hand. Now, I don't know if I've talked about this on YouTube before, but I've never really watched anime, never been my thing. I watched Pokemon growing up, and I watched, like, Bakugan when I was into that as a kid, but for the most part, never really did the whole manga anime thing. But I have a lot of friends who are into manga and anime, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give a manga a try. Like, I'm going to get, like, a entry point manga, see if it's good. If I like it, I'll watch the anime, I'm not, like, getting super into it, but I wanted to try it out. So I got, for my first ever manga, Attack on Titan, which shouldn't surprise anyone. It's a pretty big one. It was one that I recognized, even though I am not into this stuff. Like, I hear about Attack on Titan all the time. There was other ones I recognized. My Hero Academia was one I was really thinking about because that is kind of superhero adjacent. What's the other one? Hunter x Hunter, I've heard a lot of good things about. So I'm keeping those in the back of my mind. I might look into them, but I got Attack on Titan Volume 1. And then when I finished that, the day I got it, I went back and got 2 and 3. I just finished 3 today, and I gotta say I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely different. It's an experience. It takes some getting used to. For anyone who's never read manga before, it is very famously read right to left. So, like, if I'm holding this where the cover is forward, like, the pages are on the left, not on the right. And you open it here, and you read it like this. But not only do you read it that way, that I could get used to, but you read the pages right to left. Like, instead of reading like this, like you would in a comic book, you read like this. So it's a little tricky, but I got used to it pretty quickly. And I will say the art is really good. It's a little bit hard to follow sometimes. Like, a lot of manga art, especially because it's black and white, it can get a little messy and hard to, like, I'm trying to find a good example. Usually during action scenes, which that's fine because, you know, it's a stylistic thing, but where is a good example? Like this page, it's a little bit hard to know what's going on there. It's not the worst. There's better examples, but I can't find them right now. But the art is very, very good. Like this page. I mean, look at this. Oh, hitting my mic. Like, that art is really cool. So yeah, I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to getting the next couple volumes. The Barnes & Noble that I got these from did not have volume 4 or 5, so I will have to order those online, probably like on Amazon. I think they were like $5 on Amazon. So that's one thing the main reason I wanted to get into this is because I just wanted a new series, you know, like Walking Dead. When you read Walking Dead for the first time, you have almost 200 books to read, and it takes you a while, and you're into it for a while. I don't really have anything like that. And while I haven't read every comic book ever, I feel like there's not any other like big ones like that, like Saga, Walking Dead. I mean, I guess I could read Invincible. Leave recommendations below for other comics I should read, but I just wanted something that would be really long, and Attack on Titan has literally 34 different volumes, and that's only in the main series. They also have a prequel series which has like 17 volumes and like all this other stuff. So and then there's of course Hunter x Hunter, which has like 40 volumes, and My Hero Academia, which has 40. So lots and lots to read there, and they're really cheap. They're each like $10. If you get them online, you can get them for like $6. And it's about the same amount of content as like a trade paperback in comics, which are like $15 to $20. So pretty good deal. So I definitely enjoyed it. I did watch the first episode of the anime, and it was pretty cool, but I'm probably gonna wait to finish the manga before I even start the anime, because I don't want to be like reading and watching at the same time. I want to read it and then watch it. So yeah, I have entered the manga world. To all you anime fans out there, working my way in. I think the next one I read will probably be My Hero Academia, but I also want to read Hunter x Hunter. So, but that's where we're at with that. But that's enough on that. We can get into the comic books now. For all you comic fans are like, oh my gosh, we don't care about anime. We don't care about manga. I hear you. All right. We're getting into the comic book. So, I mentioned I was getting more into indie comic books. As you guys have known with the last few around the boxes, I read Saga and started picking up Saga. I liked Walking Dead back in the day. But generally, I've always been like a huge just like Marvel fan, and I read Marvel comics. But I've been trying to get more into indie comic books because, one, I think it's really great that they are creator-owned. I think that is a really good direction for comic books to go in. I understand why Marvel and DC aren't, because it would be too hard to do that. And I think it's okay to have both. Like, Marvel and DC have their characters that, you know, it's like you get the honor of being a creator on that, you know, like getting to write Spider-Man. You don't own Spider-Man, but you got to write Spider-Man, so that's like already an honor. Whereas in the indie books, like, you have a story you want to tell, you can hop in with Image or whatever and tell that story. So one book that I saw on the shelf recently, I've been getting in the habit of, like, when I go on Wednesdays, just looking at the whole shelf and being like, are there any comics that look cool? And especially looking at the indie books and seeing if there's any like issue ones that interest me. And I saw this one. It is Beware the Eye of Odin, issue number 1. And I was like, I'm definitely gonna get that. It's from Image, which generally I like Image's comics. And in case you don't know, I am half Norwegian. I have a lot of Nordic heritage that I really love. I wear my Mjolnir pendant around my neck every day. So I saw this and I was like, I'm absolutely down for that. It's kind of like Norse fantasy, and it was pretty good. The story was a little dumbed down, I guess I would say. Not a lot of depth. It's pretty just kind of quick and comic booky, which is fine. I'm gonna pick up the next issue though and keep going with it just because it's enjoyable to read. I feel like for me, independent like Image comics are really good for just like stories, whereas less so collecting. Like, is this gonna be worth any money one day? Probably not. But it's a good story that I enjoy reading. So that's kind of the concept for that one. And another indie book that I picked up today is Chip Zdarsky's Public Domain. And this is actually where the title of this video came from. Because this is basically Chip Zdarsky calling out Marvel and DC, and the larger comic book industry. There's a reason this is published by Image, and that's because Image is the company that is very famously founded by comic book creators and for comic book creators to create creator-owned books. This comic book is basically a fictional rendition of what is happening in the comic book industry. It's about the family of a comic book artist who co-created a huge superhero character. And the writer is rich and famous and is making money off of the movies that they're making and all this other stuff, whereas the artist is not getting anything. Sounds familiar, and it literally mocks kind of the MCU, because they do an interview with like the actor of the new movie, and at one point in the premiere they're like, oh, this is a part of the SCU or whatever. Like, they're very obviously, I think it was called what was it called, Singular Comics, Singular Studios, Singular Cinematic Universe. Like, it's obviously a comparison to Marvel, and ultimately the end of the issue is basically with the artist finding out that he actually owns the rights to the character, which is Domain. I think the character is actually called what's the character called? Come on, where is it? Did I miss the Eminent Domain? Is the superhero that this artist created. So this is very obviously made talking about what's been going on with like Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby, and a lot of people have been arguing that they should have the rights to the characters that they created, and that's definitely interesting that they're really just calling them out in the form of a comic book, especially Chip Zdarsky, who works with Marvel. I mean, he writes for Marvel. So that was what kind of caught my eye about that and reading it. And it's definitely interesting, definitely worth a pickup. There's obviously more issues coming down the line. I don't know how long it'll go for, but it's an interesting story. And they're really just calling out Marvel and the rest of the comic book industry. So I like that. It's definitely very good. While I don't 100% agree with some of the opinions that folks on that side will have in regards to creator ownership of characters owned by a company, I personally don't think that it makes a whole lot of sense to say, oh, Steve Ditko or whatever, Stan Lee's estate, Steve Ditko's estate should have the rights to these Marvel characters, because they were owned by the company and the company hired them to write and draw the comic books. It's not like, yes, they did create them, but they were hired under that assumption. It's just the way it was. You can't really change that retroactively. I do think that you can change it going forward, and I think that's what we're seeing with like Image Comics was founded under that principle of like, hey, we'll publish your comic book, but you own the rights to your creations. And I think that's awesome. But I just think it's too late for like Spider-Man. Like, you can't just give Spider-Man to like who would you give it to at this point? The Stan Lee estate, the Steve Ditko estate? Like, you just can't really do that. It's owned by the company, and I think it should continue to be that way, because that's the only way that Marvel Comics and DC Comics can really do that. Do what they do, which is having these characters for years and years and having different creators do their different takes on them and leave their impact on their legacy. Just kind of how it is. But moving on, next book, not too much to talk about. It's Poison Ivy, #1. I picked this up because I just saw it on the shelf and I was interested in the story. Poison Ivy's always been a really cool character. I liked that this was a DC Pride label. I thought that was really cool. So just as a moment in history, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll check it out. And it was good. It was good. I'll pick up issue 2 and see where it goes. But Not like super wowed by it, but it was enjoyable. But I don't have much else to say about it than that. I mainly picked it up just because it was an issue number 1 of one of the few DC characters that I would be interested in, and I just wanted to see what they would do with it. Like flipping through it, I saw a bit of what the story was, and I thought it looked cool, so went ahead and went for it. Next book came out this week. It is Venom Lethal Protector number 3. They have been knocking it out of the park with these covers. Their cover artist is incredible. I mean, this one is good. The last couple were good. The next one is incredible. Look at that cover. That is beautiful. This series has been good. Not great, but good. My biggest issue, but this is better than the main Venom series. Specifically the art. I love the art on this. The covers are incredible, and even the interior art is really good. And then you go over to the main Venom series, which is Brian Hitch, who I've very vocally not been a fan of his art for a while now. And you look at those covers, and they're so boring. And then you look at these covers, and they're so good. So that's something I think, take the creators who are working on this. Obviously not David Michelin. I don't think he's like full-time writing comics or anything, but maybe he is. I don't know. But take the artists who are working on this, bring them over to the main Venom series, and make that series better, because that series is really boring, and that's not good for that. But, that's my main problem with Lethal Protector. Not even a problem, but it's just, it makes me sad to see how cool Venom covers can be when we have the super boring covers over on the main series. So, continuing forward, we have some Captain America books. Sorry, I'm gonna be toying with my hair. I'm trying to make it not look completely ridiculous. We got Captain America Sentinel of Liberty number 1. Now, I talked about when I picked up Captain America Symbol of Truth number 1, which is the Falcon Cap series. That didn't have a legacy numbering, and this doesn't have a legacy numbering. So I was about ready to complain about that, but I'll talk more about that with the next comic book. But this one is the first issue in the Steve Rogers Captain America series. I really like how they're doing both. I think that's a really good idea. It continues the legacy. It allows Falcon Cap to really fully become Captain America, but it also keeps Steve Rogers there for the legacy fans. And I like how they're kind of having Sam Wilson Cap with his like Falcon, and then you have Steve Rogers Cap with the Winter Soldier and Bucky. I really, really like that. Plus, Sam Wilson's kind of dealing with more international stuff, whereas Steve Rogers is more like American stuff. But I really, really liked this book. It sets Steve up back in his old childhood home, so he's just like living in an apartment. So it's kind of back to the few Captain America books that I read from like the 90s, where he was just like living in an apartment and doing his thing. And he's going to community college and just kind of living his life. But it's also setting up this whole conspiracy, which, by the way, let's just shout out this art here. It's awesome. It's setting up this conspiracy of kind of this secret society type thing that's trying to do some stuff. I don't want to spoil too much, and I also don't yet know what's going on exactly, but we get to see Cap and Winter Soldier fight some dudes, and it's very good action. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I'm actually looking forward to the next issue, because I want to see where it goes with it. I want to see where the story goes from here, and what's going to happen, and what's going on. So I definitely recommend it if you are a Captain America fan. It's a lot more... what's the right word? A lot more easy. It's a lot easier to grasp than past Captain America books. Like, I know when Ta-Nehisi Coates was writing it, I had a little bit of trouble following the story just because he writes in a very poetic way almost. Yeah, and it was a little more palatable, I think, is the best way to put it. So definitely like that. But didn't have legacy numbering. So I was like, okay, is Marvel getting rid of the legacy numbering? Like, what are we doing? You have 2 Captain America series and neither one has legacy numbering. Obviously, they can't both have legacy numbering because that would be weird. If you have, like, this is 797 and this is 798 and it, like, goes back and forth or whatever. Couldn't do that. It looks like they heard that feedback, though, because on issue 2 of Captain America Symbol of Truth, they have added the legacy numbering. So that's my next pickup. Obviously, came out today. So issue 1 did not have the legacy numbering, so that's interesting. They excluded it from issue 1, but then they added it for issue 2. Whatever that means, I don't know. But this is Captain America Legacy 737. So basically, this confirms that this is the main Captain America series going forward, because it's in the legacy numbering. So basically, Sam Wilson is the main Captain America. This is the Captain America series. But you still have your Steve Rogers cap if you want your Steve Rogers cap, and that can make you happy, this, that, the other. So that's an interesting inclusion on there. Maybe, who knows, maybe Captain America Sentinel of Liberty #2 will come out, and that'll also have legacy numbering, and then they will do both series. But I think it's probably more likely that they just do the legacy numbering on this series and just keep that as its own thing. But this issue was pretty good. It has Deadpool in it, which I've never been a huge fan of Deadpool as a character. It's especially a weird crossover with Captain America, like Sam Wilson Cap. It doesn't seem like a crossover that makes a whole lot of sense, but it was actually pretty good. The banter was pretty good. We're setting up another conspiracy. I'm just excited to be having some Captain America again, because I really like Captain America as a character, but I haven't really been able to read his comic books in ever. Because it's been Ta-Nehisi Coates for a while, and before that, there hasn't been a good run that I've been able to kind of get on board with. So I was really looking forward to having 2 Captain America series with both versions of the character, and I thoroughly enjoy both of them. And I think it's awesome that this is kind of the main one, because obviously in the MCU, Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, is about to be the main Captain America for the future of the MCU. So interesting to see him get full support in the comics, and I think this is a much better way to do it, because when they originally introduced Falcon Cap, there were obviously a lot of people who were angry, and I think this is a much better way to do it, to say, like, hey, Falcon Cap is the main Cap, we're passing down the mantle, we're continuing the legacy, but if you really hate Falcon Cap, you can just go pick up the Steve Rogers book, and it's him and Bucky doing classic Captain America stuff. Go for it. I think that's a really good way to do it. I think that's how they should do it for all of their kind of titles or mantles in the series. Whenever the day comes that Peter Parker passes the mantle down to Miles Morales, Miles Morales can be the main Amazing Spider-Man series, but then you have a Peter Parker side series on the side for the fans of him. So I think that's really the way to do it. I like the way they're doing that. So go pick it up if you're interested in reading it. It's definitely a good read. Definitely a good read. I'm looking forward to the next issue of both of those series. Now, the last book in my pickups. Amazing Spider-Man #4. I did not put this one in the thumbnail or title because I've had almost every thumbnail or title of Around the Boxes has been this new run, but this did nothing new for me. This did not sell me on the new run. It didn't didn't break it. We're just floating along. Until I get some answers about what's going on with Mary Jane, I can't say anything. What I will say is they immediately start the scene with Mary Jane tucking her daughter to bed. Don't know what's going on there, and Black Cat pops in and is like, hey, have you seen Peter, yada yada. So that's concerning. Seems like they're continuing to be like, yep, she's a mom, she has a kid, and I really need to see the truth of this to be like, okay, are these actually her kids? Who's the father? What's the relationship? What's going on? Give us some answers. I think it would be really stupid if they're like, oh, Peter's the father, and now he just has kids. That would be really dumb, but until we get answers, I cannot judge it. I can judge it, but I can only theorize right now. I need full answers to be able to fully make a decision on how I feel about it. But like I've said with every other issue in the run, I enjoy the Spider-Man parts. The Spider-Man parts are good. Him in the mob base and beating up all the gangsters was very cool. I actually enjoyed some of the art. I actually really like this panel here. They did some interesting things with it, and he's desperately fighting through to try and go and save Robbie, and then he finds out Tombstone tricked him. Tombstone doesn't hurt Robbie, but he tricked Spider-Man into thinking that Tombstone's men were dressed up as the Rose's men and were going to go kill a bunch of people, so that he was actually in the Rose's base, and he took out all of the Rose's men for Tombstone. So that was an interesting twist. I did enjoy that, but I can't enjoy the Spider-Man parts when the Peter Parker parts are so worrying and so concerning. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I enjoy the Spider-Man bits, but you can't enjoy the Spider-Man bits if the Peter Parker bits are trash, and if, you know, Mary Jane just like has kids now. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why Marvel won't let them just be happy and be together, and why they keep doing this crap. But anyway, I cannot come to a conclusion about this run until we get some answers about this. Until we know what the heck happened, that they are teasing, you know, where it's like, what did Peter do? And that's why he's acting all weird. Until we figure out what the heck happened, until we figure out what is the deal with Mary Jane and these kids, I can't decide whether this sucks or not. So we'll find out, I guess. I really want to give Zeb Wells the benefit of the doubt, but it just seems like such a departure from what Spider-Man has been doing and where he's been going the last 5 years. Yeah, I just don't know. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Around the Boxes. I will probably see you guys next in the next Webheads episode. If not, I might have a video out before then. I have a couple videos I plan on making soon. But yeah, if you guys want to chat some more, I've been streaming over on Twitch when I have the time, twitch.tv/DA_comics. I will probably be live later tonight, streaming some Destiny with JP Creations and our friend Gut. So you can come and pop in and say hi, and we can talk some comic books there. Otherwise, all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much at DA Comics everywhere. I think the only one that's not is TikTok. I think that's DA_comics, but if you want to go follow me on those, I always try to post out when I post videos and things so that you stay in the loop and don't miss anything. But I'm going to stop rambling, and I'm going to end the stream now. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you do enjoy these videos, make sure you leave a like so that I know you enjoy it. And comment down below your recommendations for any other comic series, independent comic series that I should check out, and also any manga that you think I should check out. So